Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to create Adventure Girl's shooting animation, make bullets, and create enemy health, and then we'll code our bullets so they actually do damage to the enemies. We're going to start out by creating the shooting animations for Adventure Girl. The shooting animations are going to start out by looking pretty similar to what we've done in the past. We're going to start with an if statement, and in our if statement, we're going to check if we are pressing the mouse down button. So if we are pressing mouse down, then we're going to run her shooting animations. Now to use her shooting animations, it's going to be important what costume numbers we have. So if we go over to her costumes real quick, let's go scroll down until we find the shooting animations. And the shooting animations are right here. There's only 3 of them. They go shoot 1, shoot 2, and shoot 3. They start out on shoot 1 at 46, and they end at 48 here, shoot 3. So now back in our code, we can start to set this up. The very first thing we'll do is have her switch to her first shooting costume, which is shoot 1. So we'll change our costume to shoot 1. We'll also have Adventure Girl point in the direction of the mouse pointer. We don't want her shooting the other direction. We don't want to be pointing this way and then have her shoot to the right. That'd be ridiculous looking. And now normally with animations, I don't like adding weights, but in this case, since we only have the 3 animations, we're going to need to slow them down a bit so we can see them. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a wait 0.05 seconds, so we'll wait 0.05 seconds just to slow her animation down a little bit. And then we're going to create a little bit of a different effect there. So normally when we are creating movement, we have this little if statement here, and it cycles over her running costumes, right, until she stops running, and then it goes to her idle costumes. But in this one, it's going to be a little bit different. In this one, I don't want her to be able to stop her shooting animations. Once she starts the shooting animation, she shouldn't be able to cancel it right in the middle. She should be committed to actually doing the entire shooting animation. So to do that, instead of using an if statement here to check if we've passed the last costume, we're going to use a repeat until to make sure she goes through each one of her costumes. So to do that, I'm going to go into control here, and I have a repeat until. And we're going to grab this repeat until, and we're going to say we're going to repeat until our costume number is larger than her last costume number. So until our costume number gets to her last costume number, here, so costume number is greater than 47. So once it gets to 48, then we're going to, until then, it's going to repeat. It's going to switch to the next costume. And again, I'm trying to slow these down a little bit, so I'm going to drag in a wait 0 here. And I know this looks like wait 0 seconds. This wait 0 seconds looks like it should be doing nothing, but in Scratch, this actually does slow things down. It slows it down by 1 frame. So wait 0 seconds does actually cause a delay in Scratch, just so everyone knows. That's the shortest duration you can delay, but it is actually a delay. It delays for 1 frame. That's going to be important a little bit later on when we do our collisions between different sprites. And then the last thing I want to do is grab in just one more, a little bit of a wait after the end of the repeat. So it's going to be a wait 0.15, just to continue to slow down that animation a little bit. So we have a little bit of time that it takes her to shoot. So now if I do this and we hit the mouse button, you'll see she runs through the shooting animation. There's no bullet yet, so that's the next thing I want to do is talk about adding the bullet. So to start out with, we're going to go ahead and create a new sprite for our bullet, and I'm just going to paint this sprite. I want to name it Bullet. Make sure you have a good naming convention. It makes the game, it's so much easier to code things when you have good names for all of your sprites. So we're going to name it Bullet. I'm going to, looks like I'm already on a gray, so we're going to pick a gray for our fill, and then we'll go over to the paintbrush here, and I would make it, I think size 40 will make sense. And you want to put it right in the center here. Just a little gray dot there. And then that's obviously much too large for a bullet. It's like the size of her head. So we'll go ahead and shrink it down a bit to, oops, that's bigger. We'll do 25. 25 looks about right. That looks like the size of a bullet. So now with bullets, we're going to want, there can be more than one bullet on screen at once. And so once again, we're going to use clones for these bullets. So when I'm using clones, typically what I'm going to do is hide the original. So we're going to go, when we click start for this bullet, we're going to hide it. So when start happens, we hide the bullet, and then we're only going to show the clone. So then when the bullet starts as a clone, when I start as clone, we will go ahead and show the bullet. We're also going to have this go to Adventure Girl's location. So we want it to go to Adventure Girl when it starts. And then I also want it to move forward a little bit, because if you notice when we click start here and we shoot her gun, it happens over here at the tip, not right in her center. But by default, the bullet's going to go straight to her center. So instead of going to the center, we're just going to have it move out a little bit. So I'm just going to add like a move 10 steps in here. Then we want the bullet to repeat for a while. So we're going to go ahead and grab a repeat. And we're going to repeat until, we want to repeat until the bullet is touching the edge of the screen. So repeat until touching edge. And then what's going to be inside the repeat is just our movement code for the bullet. So we'll have it move 15 steps. And then once it touches the end of the screen, then we're going to delete it. So we'll go to our control and we'll choose delete this clone. And that'll happen right at the end of the repeat. So now when I click start and I play my game, what you're going to see is that I can shoot. Oops, that didn't work. Okay, so the reason that didn't work is because I haven't actually created the code to add the bullets yet. So we have all this code for when we have a bullet, like once it starts as a clone, but currently we aren't actually creating any bullets when we click this mouse down. And so to do that, what we're gonna need to do is go into this, we can go into our control code, and in Adventure Girl's controls here, right at the beginning, we can choose to create a clone, and instead of creating a clone of herself, instead of creating a clone of Adventure Girl, we can create a clone of our bullet. And then once the bullet clone is created, it's gonna run the bullet clone code here. So now when we click start and we start this game again, and we click, you'll see the bullets get created. We have a few problems. One of the problems is the bullets always go only in one direction, so even if we're shooting this way, they go right. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick. All right, so our bullets shouldn't just go right. We should make sure that they're changing direction based on which way our mouse is pointing. So if our mouse is pointing to the left over here, they should shoot to the left. If it's pointing to the right over here, they should shoot to the right. So I'm gonna go ahead into motion and I'm going to grab this point in direction. So we're gonna point towards the mouse pointer. Now if I just ran the code as we have it right here, there's a few more steps, because if I just ran it right here, you'll see that we can shoot bullets wherever we want. And that might be what you want for your game, but for my game, I want the bullets to only travel left and right on a sort of straight line. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go ahead and grab another if statement here. We're going to do if statements. We're gonna say if the direction the bullet is facing is less than, if the direction the bullet is facing is less than 0, that means it's facing to the left, by the way. If the direction is less than 0, it means it's facing this way to the left. Then we want to have it, instead of being any direction, we want to only be this direction, only be straight to the left. We don't want it curving off at any other angles. We just want it to go straight left. And otherwise, we want to go just straight right, the exact opposite way. And so now when I combine all this code and I click start again, no matter where our mouse is pointing, we always get the bullet going left or right. And we have a little bit of weird sliding action, which we'll deal with in just a second here. The one thing you might have noticed here is that we've got a little bit of a weird slide going on. If I'm walking, I can shoot and I sort of just like slide to the left, which is kind of fun, but very weird. And I think I want to get rid of that. And so to do that, we just need to prevent Adventure Girl from using her other costume. So we have to prevent her from switching to her moving costumes while we have the mouse down. And to do that is going to be fairly simple. All we need to do is say whenever we're checking for her movement, so like if we're checking for her to go left with the D key, we're going to add in an and here, and we're going to check if she's pressing the D key and we're also not pressing the mouse down button. So if we're pressing the D key and we're not pressing mouse down, where is it? Mouse down, then we can actually move left. And we're going to do the exact same thing for the A key. We'll replace D with A, and then we'll drag this right in here. So only if we aren't pressing those keys can we actually move. So now what you're going to see is that now I'm pressing the left and right keys, but she gets locked in. She gets like stuck where she is. She's locked into that shooting animation until she finishes it. So now that we have our bullets and animation working, the next thing we need to do is set up our zombies so that they have some health, and so that when the bullets hit the zombies, they take away from the zombies' health. To do that, the first thing we're going to need to do is go over here to our zombie, and we're going to create a new variable for our zombie. So we're going to create a new variable, and it's going to be, again, very important for this sprite only. We're going to create a variable called zombie health. And then we're going to say OK for this sprite only. And then we have this variable zombie health, and this variable zombie health is going to exist for each one of these clones we create. They'll all have their own health. And so when we start as clone, we're going to go ahead and grab some code that says when I start as a clone, we're going to go ahead and set the zombie health. So we'll set zombie health to, and I'm going to set their health to 4 to start out with. And then what we're going to do is we're going to check if the zombie is touching a bullet clone, then we're going to decrease their health. So we'll go ahead and grab a forever loop, and we'll say, actually here, let's do this. Let's grab a repeat until. And what we're going to do is we're going to repeat until our zombie's health is less than 1. So until our zombie health is less than 1. That means our zombie's health is equal to 0 or less. Then, after that ends, we'll go ahead and delete this clone. Because once our zombie's health is 0 or less, we want to go ahead and delete the clone. But until then, we want to be checking if our zombie is touching a bullet. So we're going to check if we are touching a bullet, then we're going to go ahead and decrease the zombie's health by 1. We'll have bullets do 1 damage. So we'll go ahead and say change zombie health by -1. And so I'll subtract 1 from our zombie's health if we're touching a bullet. Once we get to 0 health, then it'll go ahead and just stop running this loop and it'll delete the clone. So now if I click start, what you're going to see is this. If I click start and I shoot the zombie, it should take 4 shots to kill them. It actually took only 2. So the reason for that is that the bullet actually hits the zombie more than 1 time. This little piece of code here, this little loop here, runs for every single frame of the game. So in any frame where the bullet is touching the zombie, it will calculate this. So it's probably touching it either 2 or 3 times during this frame. So the other thing we need to happen is our bullet needs to stop existing. Once our bullet hits the zombie, we need it to stop. We need it to not hit the zombie again. We need the bullet to go away because it's hit the zombie and that bullet shouldn't be doing any more damage. So what we'll do is we'll go into our bullet code and we'll add in another piece of code here that says, when I start as clone, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to forever check if we're touching the zombie. So if we are touching the zombie, then we will go ahead and delete the bullet clone because we don't need the bullet clone anymore, right? It's touched the zombie, it should be gone. And so now what you'd think would happen is whenever we shoot the zombie, it's good, the bullet disappears, right? And if we shoot the zombie 4 times, the zombie should be dead. But now the bullet's disappearing and it's not actually doing any damage to the zombie. So it took me a long time to figure out why this happened, but it turns out what happens is this. Scratch calculates some things before other things. And so the first thing Scratch actually does is it starts by calculating if the bullet is touching the zombie and deleting the clone before it actually runs any of this zombie code. So what ends up happening is you shoot the bullet touches the zombie, Scratch first runs this code in the frame to check if the bullet is touching the zombie, and then deletes it, and then we get over to our zombie here, and then there's no more bullet. The bullet's already been deleted, so this piece of code here that says if touching bullet never runs. The solution to this is that we need our bullet to wait around just for long enough for our zombie to also calculate that it was touching the bullet. And so the solution for this is we just need to wait for 1 frame. We need to wait for 1 extra frame so we have time for our zombie to actually get damaged by the bullet. And to do that, you just need to drag in this wait 0 seconds. So if the bullet's touching the zombie, we wait for just a little bit of time so that we have time for this piece of code to run and actually decrease the zombie's health, and then we delete the clone. And this way, now if I run the game now, you'll see that our bullets will actually do damage to our zombie, and that works perfectly. We shoot 4 bullets, each one of the bullets disappears, but each one of them also does damage to the zombie. So really quickly, just to sum up everything we did here today, the first thing we did is this. We went into our code here and we created this animation for Adventure Girl. So we say if her mouse is down, then we're going to switch to her first shooting costume, and we're going to point the mouse pointer towards wherever we're shooting so that she's facing the right direction, and then we're going to create a clone of the bullet. We're going to wait a little bit of time so that we have time to see that animation, and then we're going to repeat for each one of her shooting costumes until we get to her last shooting costume. And then we're going to wait for just a little bit more time so that you actually see the shooting costume take effect. We also went up here and we added in these and not pressing mouse down, because otherwise she's allowed to move and shoot at the same time, which is not what I'm going for in this game. And so we made sure that when she's pressing D, she also has to not be shooting in order to move. Next, over in our bullet code, whenever one of these bullets is created, it starts out by showing itself and then going straight to Adventure Girl, and then it points towards the mouse pointer, whichever way the mouse is pointing. And then if that direction is less than 0, if it's somewhere over on this side, then we have it point straight to the left so that it goes straight and not up and down at all, or we have it go straight to the right if it's facing the other direction. Then we have the bullet move 10 steps out because we want the bullet not to appear right on Adventure Girl, but out a little bit towards where her gun is. And then we repeat until touching edge, move 15, and then once we get to the edge, we go ahead and delete the clone. We also have this code in here for if the bullet's touching the zombie, we're going to wait 0 seconds to allow a chance for the frame to finish calculating so that the zombie's code has a chance to run. And then we're going to delete the clone right after that. Over on our zombie, we added in just a tiny bit of code here. We created the zombie health, and we created that for each sprite. So the zombie starts at this. We set the zombie's health. We set each clone's health to 4. And then until that health is less than 1, so until it's 0 or less, we check if we're touching the bullet. And if we are touching the bullet, we change that health by -1. And then as soon as this loop isn't true, as soon as we get down to 0 health, we go ahead and delete the zombie clone, which kills our zombie. So there we go. I think that's looking pretty good for our shooting. And in the next video, we're going to be talking about creating melee and learning how to use hitboxes in Scratch, and also adding in health to our player so that we can actually lose the game.